Alex lived in a small, quiet town where nothing extraordinary ever seemed to happen. The streets were narrow and peaceful, lined with familiar houses, carefully maintained gardens, and neighbors who had known each other for years. Everyone knew everyone. Life moved slowly, predictably, and Alex liked it that way. He enjoyed the simple things most people overlooked: the evening walks with his dog, the smell of fresh bread from the local bakery, and quiet weekends spent relaxing in the town park. To others, his life might have seemed ordinary, but there was one thing about Alex that made him different. He carried a passion that had been part of him since childhood: martial arts. From a very young age, Alex had been fascinated by the discipline, focus, and strength it demanded. To him, it was never just about fighting. It was about control, patience, learning how to overcome his own limits. His father had noticed his potential early on and encouraged him to continue. He saw something special in Alex, a combination of natural ability and the determination to keep improving. Every day after work, Alex visited the small dojo hidden on the edge of town. It wasn't impressive. The walls were old wooden panels. The mirrors had scratches from years of training. The punching bags were worn out. But to Alex, it was perfect. Inside those walls, he practiced every movement until it became instinct. His kicks, his strikes, his defenses, his forms. Sometimes he trained with the other students, testing himself against opponents who pushed him harder every day. But the dojo gave him more than physical strength. It gave him peace, a place where the noise of the outside world disappeared, a place where he could focus, improve, and become better than he was yesterday. Alex never expected his quiet life to change. He never imagined that the skills he had spent years mastering would one day be needed for something far greater. But sometimes, the calmest lives hide the most unexpected destinies. It was a way to test his limits, to push himself, and to stay disciplined. Over the years, Alex had learned to stay calm under pressure, to think clearly in stressful situations, and to trust his instincts. Skills like these had quietly built his confidence, though he never imagined they would be tested in the way that night would demand. One evening, as Alex was walking home from the dojo, the sky began to change. It started slowly, almost like a painting spreading across the horizon. The stars twinkled normally at first, but then strange glowing lights appeared. They moved in patterns that no ordinary aircraft could make. The lights were bright, shimmering in green and purple hues, and they reflected off the rooftops, painting the town in a surreal glow. People stepped outside, pointing and whispering. Phones came out, cameras clicked, and neighbors gathered in, small groups staring up at the sky. A feeling of awe and fear mixed in the air. Alex slowed his pace, his curiosity overtaking any sense of worry. He had always been drawn to the unusual, the mysterious, the things that tested the limits of human understanding. As he reached the town square, the crowd had grown larger. The lights in the sky seemed to move closer, descending slowly but steadily. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground and into the bones of everyone present. Children clung to their parents, and even the bravest adults looked around nervously. Something was coming, and it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Then it happened. A ship unlike any aircraft Alex had ever imagined emerged from the lights. It was massive yet sleek, floating silently without a sound of engines. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the lights around it, and it hovered just above the ground. People gasped and stepped back, instinctively, giving it space. The air felt electric, as if the town itself was holding its breath. From the ship, a figure descended. Alex froze, his eyes wide. She was tall, her presence commanding. Her armor glinted under the strange lights, and her movements were precise, graceful, and strong. She had a crown-like helmet that framed her face, and her eyes, large, intense, and glowing slightly, scanned the crowd like she was assessing them all in a single glance. She stopped, standing still, and the crowd fell silent. There was no fear in her posture, only confidence. her gaze locked onto Alex. She tilted her head slightly, a smirk forming on her lips, as if she already knew who she was looking at. Then she spoke, and her voice was clear, loud, and carried an authority that made everyone shiver. "You can't last a minute, human." The words echoed in the square, leaving a strange mixture of fear and disbelief. Alex's heart raced, but he did not step back. Part of him wanted to run, yes, but a stronger part, the part that had been trained for years, the part that thrived on challenge, kept him rooted to the spot. His mind worked quickly, analyzing what he saw. This wasn't a prank or a trick. This was real, and the person or being before him was unlike anything he had ever faced. The townspeople whispered among themselves, astonished. Some were frozen in place, staring with wide eyes. Others murmured prayers, unsure of what was happening. Children clung tightly to their parents, sensing the tension and power in the air. The alien warrior princess, because Alex realized she was no ordinary human, moved with purpose, her body exuding energy and strength. She did not seem to notice anyone else. Her focus was entirely on Alex, and it was clear she was confident in her statement. Alex took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He knew panic would not help. He had trained for moments like this, even if not exactly like this. Every punch, kick, and stance he had practiced over the years had been about control, patience, and observation. And now all of that was about to be tested in a way he never could have imagined. As she moved closer, the ground beneath her feet barely touched the earth. Yet the pressure of her presence was heavy. The crowd instinctively moved back, giving her space, but Alex stayed put. He had no idea what would happen next. But he knew one thing. This was no ordinary challenge. This was a confrontation that would demand everything he had, physically, mentally, and emotionally. In that moment, with the strange lights above, the hum of the ship, and the crowd watching in stunned silence, Alex realized something important. He was not afraid of the unknown. He had faced challenges before, but this one was unlike any he had imagined, and deep inside, a spark of determination ignited. He was ready to see just how far he could go, even if the odds seemed impossible. Alien warrior princess raised her hand slightly, signaling that the confrontation was about to begin. The town seemed to hold its breath, and Alex felt his own heartbeat pound in rhythm with the tension in the air. He looked at her eyes, and even in their intensity, he felt something, a test, a challenge, a chance to prove that humans could endure more than anyone thought. The stage was set. The quiet town, the hovering ship, the glowing lights, and the crowd that had gathered were all part of a moment that would be remembered for years. And in the center of it all stood Alex, a human, ready to face what no one else could imagine. The night had begun, and with it a test of courage, skill, and the human spirit that was about to unfold in ways no one could predict. The crowd had scattered to a safe distance, leaving only a few brave onlookers who couldn't tear their eyes away. The town square, once calm and familiar, now felt like the arena of a battle that no one could have imagined. Alex stood in the center, his heart pounding, his body tense but ready. Across from him, the alien warrior princess adjusted her stance as if preparing to strike at any moment. Her eyes glowed with confidence, and her smirk suggested she was already certain of victory. "You can't last a minute, human," she repeated, her voice echoing strangely in the empty square. The words were not just a challenge, they were a warning. She had fought countless opponents before, warriors from her own world who were trained in the deadliest arts, and none had lasted even half a minute against her. To her, humans were weak, fragile, and unworthy of a serious fight. But Alex was human, and that made the challenge even more dangerous for her in a way she didn't fully understand. Alex's mind raced as he prepared. He knew he couldn't match her strength, speed, or alien powers head-on. That would be foolish. But he had something the princess might not experience, in strategy, observation, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. He had spent years training to fight smarter, not just harder, and that might be his only chance. The princess moved first. She lunged forward with astonishing speed. Her armor gleamed as she swung a powerful strike toward Alex. To anyone else, it would have been impossible to dodge. Alex barely had time to react. He jumped to the side, feeling the air pressure of her attack brush past him. The crowd gasped, seeing the sheer power behind her movement. But Alex did not stumble. His training had taught him balance and quick reflexes, and he used every ounce of control to stay on his feet. For a moment, it seemed like the fight would be one-sided. The princess's movements were fluid, almost like a dance, but deadly. She attacked from different angles, tested his defense, and pressed him relentlessly. Alex blocked, dodged, and moved carefully. Every step he took was calculated. He knew one mistake could be catastrophic, but he also noticed something. Her attacks, while fast and strong, followed a pattern. She was confident, perhaps overconfident, and that might be his opportunity. As he dodged another strike, Alex began to study her carefully. She was powerful, yes, but she was also focused on defeating him quickly. That meant she might underestimate the endurance of a human. Alex had spent years building stamina, learning to keep his mind sharp, even when his body was exhausted. He realized that if he could survive the first few minutes, he might be able to turn the fight to his advantage. The princess's eyes narrowed as she saw him move skillfully. Her smirk wavered slightly. She had expected to finish this quickly, yet here he was, dodging her strikes with surprising precision. Alex didn't celebrate. He didn't have time. Each attack from her required complete focus, but inside he felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could endure longer than anyone thought possible. The fight continued. Alex used the environment around him, ducking behind benches, stepping on the edges of fountains, and keeping his movements unpredictable. He realized that even small obstacles could help him survive longer. The princess followed him, leaping over obstacles with ease, yet she began to show the first signs of frustration. A human was dodging her, adapting and surviving her attacks. That was unexpected. Minutes passed. Alex's muscles burned. Sweat poured down his face and his lungs. But he did not give up. His mind remained clear, analyzing every movement, every strike, every pause. He remembered lessons from his teachers. Patience was as important as power. Observation was as crucial as strength. And now those lessons were his lifeline. The princess paused for a moment, circling him, her glowing eyes studying him. "Impressive," she said softly, almost to herself. She had never encountered a human who could move with such control and determination. Her strikes were still deadly, but she began to adjust, trying to find a weakness, something that would allow her to finish him. Quickly, Alex watched her closely, noticing the way her weight shifted, the way she prepared for each attack. Each subtle movement was a clue. Then came a crucial moment. The princess launched a sudden strike faster than anything before. Alex had only a split second to react. He dodged, barely avoiding a hit that would have knocked him down instantly. The crowd gasped at the display of agility, but Alex saw an opening. She had overextended herself, leaving a small gap in her defense. Without thinking too much, he made a careful move, landing a light but precise strike on her arm. It was not enough to hurt her seriously, but it surprised her. For the first time, the princess faltered. Her confidence wavered, replaced by curiosity and slight concern. This human, this small, seemingly ordinary human, had managed to make contact, to challenge her, and to survive longer than anyone had expected. Alex didn't celebrate. He stayed focused, breathing steadily, conserving energy, and waiting for the next move. As the fight continued, the princess began to adapt. She realized Alex was not just dodging randomly. He was observing, predicting, and learning from her movements. She respected skill, and that respect changed the nature of the battle. No longer was it simply about strength. It became a duel of strategy, timing, and endurance. Alex, despite being human, had something she might have underestimated: the ability to think, to analyze, and to endure. The town, meanwhile, watched in astonishment. They had never seen anything like this. A human standing against an alien warrior, dodging strikes, adapting, surviving. Some whispered among themselves, wondering if Alex could actually win. Others were simply in awe, unable to take their eyes off the spectacle. The lights of the ship above reflected off the princess's armor, creating a surreal scene, like a battle from a story no one could have imagined in their ordinary lives. Minutes turned into what felt like an eternity. Alex's body ached, but his determination only grew stronger. He realized that he didn't need to defeat her outright yet. Surviving, learning, and finding her patterns were victories in themselves. And as he watched her movements, he began to plan, calculating the next few moves, thinking ahead and preparing for the turning point that could change everything. The alien warrior princess, for her part, began to see Alex not just as a human, but as a worthy opponent. Her arrogance faded slightly, replaced by a recognition that humans might have untapped potential she had not considered. The battle was no longer just a display of her power. It had become a challenge that tested both their skills, their minds, and their endurance. And so the fight continued into the night. The quiet town square transformed into a stage for a confrontation that was both extraordinary and unforgettable. Alex, the ordinary human with extraordinary training and courage, faced the alien warrior, not with fear, but with determination. Each strike, each dodge, each movement was a testament to the human spirit, a spirit that refused to give up no matter how impossible the challenge seemed. In that moment, with sweat on his brow, his muscles burning, and his heart racing, Alex understood something crucial. This fight was not just about survival. It was about proving that humans with courage, strategy, and perseverance could stand against even the most powerful adversaries, no matter how alien or intimidating. The fight had been going on for what felt like an endless stretch of time. The town square, once a place of ordinary life, now bore the marks of a battle that seemed almost unreal. Dust swirled around, broken benches and small debris scattered across the ground, and the air was thick with tension. Alex's clothes were damp with sweat, his muscles ached, and his breathing was heavy. Yet he stood firmly, watching the alien warrior princess with focused eyes. She too showed signs of fatigue, her movement still precise and powerful, but her confidence no longer absolute. Despite the difference in size and power, Alex had begun to understand a critical truth. He could endure. He wasn't fast enough to match her every strike, nor strong enough to overpower her, but he had something she did not expect: adaptability. Each dodge, each block, each careful strike he made wasn't random. He had begun to notice patterns in her attacks, subtle cues that indicated where she might move next, or which strike she would attempt. He realized that while she relied heavily on her raw power, he could rely on intelligence, observation, and patience. The princess noticed his ability to anticipate her moves. At first, it frustrated her. She had been certain that no human could keep up with her. Yet here he was not only surviving, but forcing her to pause and reconsider her tactics. She had trained for countless battles, fought opponents stronger, faster, and more skilled than humans, and none had ever lasted this long. Yet Alex, through sheer observation and endurance, had made her hesitate. That hesitation was something she was not accustomed to. Alex knew he had to seize this moment. The first few minutes had been about survival, but now he could begin to test her defenses. Using small movements, subtle feints, and careful positioning, he began to pressure her, creating openings. A light strike to her arm, a quick sidestep, followed by a controlled kick to her armor. These small actions were not enough to defeat her outright, but they chipped away at her certainty. He was making her adjust, making her think, and that was exactly what he needed. The princess's eyes narrowed as she realized she had underestimated him. Humans, she thought, were supposed to be fragile, weak, and predictable. Alex was none of these things. He moved with determination, patience, and strategy. She had assumed that a simple show of strength would end the fight quickly, but now she was facing a human who could adapt and endure, someone who was not afraid to learn during battle. Her respect for him grew, even if she would not admit it, aloud. Minutes passed and both fighters showed signs of strain. Alex's legs burned, his arms trembled from the effort of blocking and striking, and his lungs felt like they were on fire from the constant exertion. Yet he did not give in to fatigue. Every memory of his training, every lesson learned in the dojo came back to him. He remembered the times his master had taught him to remain calm, to breathe steadily, and to anticipate rather than react blindly. Now those lessons were saving his life. The princess, though still powerful, began to display subtle cracks in her perfect control. Her strikes, while still strong, became slightly more predictable. Her focus, once singular and absolute, occasionally wavered as she studied Alex, trying to understand how a human could endure so long. She adjusted her stance, changing angles, attempting to regain her advantage. Yet, each adjustment gave Alex more insight into her fighting style. The duel had transformed from a simple test of strength into a battle of wits and skill. Alex realized that this was his chance. Rather than attacking blindly, he focused on creating opportunities, small openings where he could test her reactions. A quick feint to the left, followed by a calculated strike to her side, forced her to block and stumble slightly. Though the hit did not cause serious harm, it was a signal, a proof that he could challenge her. Each small success bolstered his confidence and further unbalanced the princess. She had expected an easy victory, but instead she was facing a human who was learning and adapting in real time. The spectators, still keeping their distance, watched in awe. They had never seen a fight like this. The skill, determination, and endurance of Alex amazed them, and though the princess was alien, glowing, and armored in ways that seemed impossible, Alex held his ground. It was not brute strength that made him formidable. It was his intelligence, his focus, and his refusal to give up. Each dodge and counter-strike was a testament to the human spirit, showing that courage and strategy could match raw power. As RC, the fight continued. Alex noticed something about the princess. She moved with elegance and precision, yet she also carried the weight of expectation and pride. Her overconfidence had been her weakness, and now she was beginning to respect the challenge he posed. Alex decided to use this observation to his advantage. Instead of attacking recklessly, he baited her into overextending, forcing her to make mistakes. Every movement was deliberate, every feint calculated. He understood that endurance and strategy could turn the tide even against a superior opponent. Then came a turning point. The princess launched a rapid series of strikes, each faster and stronger than the last. Alex felt the wind of her movements brush past him, each one a potential disaster. But he had studied her patterns carefully. He anticipated the sequence and used a combination of sidesteps, blocks, and deflections to survive. He was not simply reacting, he was predicting, analyzing, and learning with every strike. His human intuition, honed through years of training, allowed him to stay one step ahead. For the first time, the princess realized that this human was more than just a survivor. He was a worthy opponent, someone who could think, adapt, and endure. Her respect for him grew, and with that respect came a subtle shift in the battle. No longer was she attacking with unchecked force alone. She began to consider his strategy, his resilience, and the possibility that victory might not be as easy as she had assumed. Alex, feeling the slight shift, knew he had to maintain focus. He had survived the initial onslaught, and now had the chance to gain further insight into her fighting style. He continued to use his environment, his mind, and his body in harmony. Every dodge, every minor strike, every movement was part of a larger plan. Survive, adapt, and exploit the openings she unwittingly provided. The night grew darker, but the lights from the alien ship above illuminated the square in eerie, shimmering patterns. Shadows moved across the ground, and dust swirled around their feet. The battle had become not just a test of physical skill, but a duel of intelligence, patience, and courage. Alex understood that victory, or at least survival, required more than strength. It required the full measure of his focus and training. With each passing moment, the princess's movements became more calculated, more precise, yet also slightly hesitant. She had underestimated humans, and Alex had shown her that endurance, intelligence, and determination could match raw power. The fight had shifted from a simple demonstration of her strength into a true test of skill and spirit, one that neither opponent would forget. Alex's determination burned brighter with every passing second. He had endured the impossible, adapted to the unthinkable, and survived longer than anyone could have predicted. In that moment, he realized that the battle was no longer just about survival. It was about proving the strength of the human spirit, the power of intelligence and perseverance, and the ability to face even the most overwhelming odds without fear. As the fight continued, both Alex and the alien warrior princess began to sense a change. What had started as a simple contest of strength and skill was transforming into something more, a test of strategy, endurance, and understanding. The princess, who had come with absolute confidence and pride, now found herself observing her opponent with growing curiosity. Alex, the human who had dodged, blocked, and countered her attacks, was no longer just a challenge. He was something she had not expected: intelligent, adaptable, and relentless. Alex, for his part, had begun to notice subtle shifts in her behavior. Her movements, though still precise and powerful, now carried hesitation. She had been trained to finish battles quickly, to overwhelm opponents with strength and speed. But Alex had forced her to adapt. He realized that she valued skill and honor in combat, and he could use that understanding to his advantage. Rather than attacking recklessly, he continued to study her, observing patterns, reactions, and weaknesses. Every feint, every dodge, every minor strike was a deliberate action designed to learn more about her. The princess circled him, her glowing eyes scanning his movements. "You are unusual," she admitted quietly, almost to herself. Her voice carried a mixture of surprise and intrigue. She had fought countless warriors, from the strongest of her world to the deadliest of her species, but none had forced her to consider their thought process, to challenge her mind rather than just her body. Alex's resilience was exceptional. He was human, yes, but there was a depth to his endurance and strategy that she had not anticipated. The crowd, still watching from a safe distance, felt the tension rise. Their excitement and fear mixed as they saw not just a fight, but a duel of wits. The alien warrior princess, with her glowing armor and alien presence, had begun to show signs of respect for Alex. It was subtle: a brief pause before attacking, a flicker of hesitation, a calculated adjustment to her strikes. Alex noticed these small changes, using them to his advantage. Each time she paused or altered her attack, he gathered information, improving his ability to predict her next move. Minutes turned into what felt like hours. Alex's body was exhausted, every muscle aching, every breath labored, yet his mind remained clear and focused. He had faced fatigue many times in his training, but never like this. The adrenaline, the pressure, and the stakes combined into an intense test of human endurance. He knew he could not afford mistakes. Yet, he also understood that patience and observation could shift the balance of the battle. The princess struck again, a sudden lunge that tested Alex's reflexes to the limit. He barely avoided the attack, rolling to the side and countering with a quick movement. She blinked in surprise. Another minor success for Alex. It was not enough to harm her significantly, but it was proof that he could influence the flow of the fight. She began to realize that this human was not just surviving. He was learning, adapting, and growing stronger in response to her attacks. Alex sensed her change in mindset. The confidence and arrogance that had filled her at the beginning were now tempered by caution and consideration. He understood that she respected skill and intelligence, and he could use that respect to guide her actions. Instead of attacking blindly, he feinted, dodged, and baited her into overextending. Each subtle move forced her to react, revealing more about her fighting style and strategy. For the first time, Alex realized that the fight was no longer solely about physical endurance. It had become a battle of minds. He and the princess were studying each other, analyzing patterns, testing patience, and pushing limits. Her movements, while still powerful and precise, now carried the marks of calculation rather than raw confidence. She was no longer simply overwhelming him with strength. She was trying to anticipate his moves, trying to outthink him. Alex, seeing this, adjusted his approach. He began to predict her reactions with greater accuracy, setting small traps, creating openings, and forcing her into situations where a single misstep could cost her the advantage. He was not reckless, he was deliberate, using every ounce of his training, every lesson learned in the dojo, every moment of mental clarity to stay one step ahead. The princess, sensing that Alex was challenging her in ways no opponent ever had, began to reflect on her assumptions. She had believed humans were fragile, limited, and predictable. Alex had proven her wrong. She found herself reconsidering the strength, courage, and adaptability of an entire species based on the actions of a single individual. For the first time in her experience, she was intrigued by the resilience of a human, recognizing that determination and intelligence could rival even her alien abilities. As the battle continued, Alex landed another small but precise strike. The princess stumbled slightly, more from surprise than pain, and for a moment, her guard faltered. Alex knew this was a turning point. The fight had shifted from survival to mutual recognition. She was no longer merely an opponent. She was a worthy adversary who could respect skill, and he had earned that recognition through endurance, observation, and strategy. The night air was charged with energy. The lights from her ship reflected off the town square, casting moving shadows across the ground. Dust and debris swirled in the air as the fight intensified, but the focus of both combatants remained sharp. Alex could feel the growing connection between their actions. Each move a conversation, each feint a question, each counterstrike an answer. They were no longer just fighting, they were learning from one another, adapting and growing stronger through the encounter. The princess paused for a moment, breathing heavily, her eyes studying Alex with newfound respect. "You are not like the others," she said softly, almost reverently. "You endure, you observe, you learn. Perhaps humans are more capable than I believed." The words were a quiet acknowledgement, a subtle change in the balance of the battle. She was no longer overconfident. She was engaged, challenged, and intrigued by Alex's ability to adapt and survive. Alex, feeling the shift in her attitude, remained focused. He understood that respect did not mean leniency. The princess was still powerful, still capable of ending the fight with a single strike. But the psychological shift was crucial. She had underestimated him, and now she had to consider his capabilities, his intelligence, and his resilience. This was the moment where strategy, patience, and mental clarity could turn the tide. Minutes passed with measured attacks, calculated dodges, and subtle counters. Both fighters moved with precision, yet there was an unspoken acknowledgement between them. Alex had proven that humans could endure, learn, and adapt, even against overwhelming power. The princess had shown restraint, skill, and respect, recognizing that strength alone did not define a worthy opponent. By the end of this phase of the battle, it was clear that the fight had transformed into something beyond physical combat. It had become a duel of intelligence, endurance, and understanding. Alex had survived, adapted, and earned recognition from the alien warrior princess. She had begun to see humans in a new light, realizing that courage, strategy, and determination could rival even the most formidable alien abilities. The night had become a turning point. Both combatants understood each other in ways no one else could. The battle was no longer about winning or losing in a simple sense. It was about respect, learning, and the demonstration of skill and spirit. Alex had endured the impossible forced adaptation from his opponent and shown that human resilience and intelligence could stand against overwhelming odds. The night had grown quiet, but the energy in the town square remained electric. The battle between Alex and the alien warrior princess had reached a point where neither strength nor speed alone would decide the outcome. What had begun as a test of power had transformed into a confrontation of minds, endurance, and spirit. Both combatants were exhausted, their movements slower but more precise, and every action carried thought, strategy, and care. Alex stood firm, breathing heavily, his muscles screaming with fatigue. His clothes were soaked in sweat, dirt covered his skin, and every part of him ached. Yet he felt a surge of confidence. He had endured attacks that no ordinary human could survive. He had observed, adapted, and countered, forcing the princess to reconsider her assumptions about humans. The crowd, though maintaining a safe distance, watched with awe. They had seen a human withstand an opponent of unimaginable strength and skill, and it filled them with a mixture of pride and disbelief. The alien warrior princess paused, her glowing eyes fixed on Alex. Her breathing was heavy, her armor scratched from minor strikes, and her movements, while still powerful, carried the weight of fatigue. She had expected a quick victory, yet this human had survived far longer than any other opponent. She took a slow step back, a gesture that carried more than exhaustion. It carried respect. "You have endured longer than I imagined," she said quietly, her voice calm, but full of acknowledgement. "Perhaps humans are stronger than I believed." For the first time, there was no arrogance in her tone, only recognition of Alex's skill, endurance, and determination. She had underestimated him, as she had underestimated humans in general, and now she saw the truth. Courage, strategy, and persistence could rival even her alien abilities. Alex, still alert, did not lower his guard completely. He understood that respect did not mean the battle was over. Yet, he felt a sense of satisfaction. He had tested himself against an opponent far beyond what any human could face, and he had survived. The princess's acknowledgement was a victory in itself. He had proven that humans, with intelligence, determination, and courage, could endure challenges that seemed impossible. The princess circled him slowly, her movements deliberate and measured. She had observed his strategy throughout the fight, noting how he used the environment, feinted to create openings, and adapted to her attacks. She had never faced an opponent like this. Alex's ability to anticipate and respond had forced her to think, to adjust, and to respect him as more than a human. He was a worthy adversary. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the culmination of the battle in every muscle, every fiber of his being. He knew that the fight had transformed from a contest of power into a test of understanding. He had not defeated her outright, nor had she defeated him, but both had gained insight, respect, and a shared recognition of skill. The alien warrior, despite her superior strength, acknowledged that endurance, strategy, and intelligence mattered as much as raw power. For the townspeople, the scene was unforgettable. Children clung to their parents, wide-eyed and amazed. Adults whispered among themselves, realizing that they were witnessing a moment that would be told for generations. A human had faced an alien warrior, endured attacks that should have been fatal, and survived. But beyond the spectacle, there was a lesson. Courage, intelligence, and perseverance could stand against even the most extraordinary odds. The princess finally stopped circling. She lowered her hand, the energy in the air shifting from tension to calm. "You have proven yourself," she said, her tone now carrying respect and quiet admiration. "Not all humans are weak or fragile. You are different, strong, clever, persistent." Her words were more than acknowledgement. They were a recognition of the human spirit, the ability to endure, adapt, and rise to challenges that might seem impossible. Alex nodded, exhausted, but proud. He had faced an opponent who was more than anyone in his town or his world had ever encountered. He had survived, learned, and grown stronger through the encounter. And more than that, he had gained the respect of someone who represented power far beyond human experience. It was a victory of spirit, intelligence, and perseverance. The princess stepped back, signaling that her challenge was complete. She moved toward her ship, her glowing form casting light across the town square. Before leaving, she turned to Alex once more. "Remember this," she said. "Strength is not only in power, it is in patience, in observation, in understanding. You have shown all of these. Perhaps one day our paths will cross again, and you will face another challenge. Until then, respect yourself and what you have proven tonight." With that, she ascended into her ship. The lights of the vessel shimmered brilliantly before fading into the night sky, leaving the town in awe and wonder. The air, once tense with anticipation and fear, now carried a sense of triumph and possibility. Alex remained standing, breathing heavily, feeling the full weight of what had just occurred. He had faced the impossible and endured. He had tested his limits, pushed beyond them, and survived. As the crowd slowly returned, approaching him with cautious excitement, Alex realized the impact of what had happened. The story of a human standing against an alien warrior, surviving and earning respect, would become a legend in his town. It was not just a tale of combat, but a testament to human courage, intelligence, and perseverance. People would speak of it for years, telling their children about the night a human endured the impossible and proved the strength of the human spirit. In the days and weeks that followed, Alex returned to his ordinary life. Yet nothing felt ordinary anymore. The dojo, the park, the streets of his small town, all were the same, yet he knew he had been changed. He had faced a challenge beyond anything he had imagined, survived, and proven to himself and the world that humans were capable of extraordinary resilience. Every training session, every lesson learned, every moment of focus and discipline had prepared him for this encounter, and he would carry that knowledge forever. Though the alien warrior princess had departed, her presence lingered. She had seen in Alex something unique, something that reminded her that strength was not only physical, and that intelligence, patience, and courage could rival even the greatest power. And Alex, for his part, knew that he had faced the ultimate test, not for glory, not for recognition, but for understanding his own limits and discovering the extraordinary within himself. The night had ended, but the story of the battle, the respect gained, and the lessons learned would endure. Alex had stood against the impossible, survived, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. He had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage, intelligence, and determination could turn the tide. And in the quiet moments that followed, as the town settled and life slowly returned to normal, Alex understood something deeply. The human spirit, when tested, could shine brighter than any star, endure longer than any storm, and rise higher than any challenge, even one from the stars themselves.